I think the killer in Scream would be way more effective if he used a gun instead of a knife. I'm just saying. The fifth installment in the horror franchise returns to its roots to tell a new tale of murder in the town of Woodsboro. What do these new victims have in common to bring back the Ghostface Killer? And can some familiar faces help stop another massacre from happening 25 years after the original murders? I'm going to be transparent right up front. I am not a big fan of the Scream movies. As a matter of fact, I haven't even seen the original film till just a couple days ago. And then on top of that, the only Scream film I had seen prior to that was Scream 4 back in 2011 when that came out. So, yeah, not very well versed in this franchise, other than knowing that it was created, or at least the original was directed by Wes Craven, famous for not Friday the 13th, dummy, Nightmare on Elm Street. And so I was very interested to see, when I watched the original, what he did, and I get the idea behind this franchise. I get the appeal to it to a lot of horror fans and where this sticks out, because it's not just straight up horror. It is a commentary on horror, as well as very what's the word? Not reverential. What the heck kind of word is reverential? Referential. There's the word. It's a very self-referential franchise, which is interesting, and that element to this series kind of intrigues me, how meta it gets, how, it can kind of poke fun at the genre and itself and point out all the little details and intricacies and the rules of what a horror film should and is. Now to get to this new one, the brand new 2022 Scream. Boy, I think that this film had the bones, pun not intended, of being a really, really good just horror film, having not invested in the franchise whatsoever. At the end of the day, I thought there was a lot of potential here, and I thought the new cast did all right. They didn't blow me out of the water. The one person that stood out to me was Jack Quaid from The Boys. I think he was a great addition to this, and probably my favorite actor in this. Other than the original cast, yeah, we get some original cast members come back. David Arquette, Neve Campbell, and Courteney Cox reprising their roles from the franchise. So it was kind of cool seeing them. In terms of the plot of this one, and to not spoil it for people who want to actually go see this, it does revolve a lot around the first film, so I'm very glad that I watched the first film, because a lot of the film takes place in a lot of the locations of the original film. I don't know if 2 and 3 do that a lot, and I barely remember number 4. I can't speak for those, but just in terms of seeing the original Scream and this brand new Scream, a requel, as they refer to it in the film, I was glad. They are a good companion piece, but I won't go as far as to say that I like this any more than the original. I think the original one is still the best one I've seen of the Scream movies. I think that what bummed me out quite a bit was also that the kills weren't very memorable. There was a couple of really visceral kills, I guess, but nothing that really stood out. I was a little disappointed by that. I think the opening sequence, though, was really well done. I really dug the opening sequence, very akin to the original Scream, if you've ever seen that one. So I thought that was great. I don't know how the first 10, 15 minutes of the movie is this scene, and I dug it. I was in from that scene at the beginning. I liked all the pieces they were setting up, but the moment this film started to get too referential, too up its own rear end, was where I was starting to get lost. Like I said, I like being meta. I like being able to poke fun at yourself and make the audience aware that you're kind of winking at them, that, hey, we know that you know what's going on and we're like kind of along with you. But at the same time, they did it a lot. Almost to the point where I was like, okay, you're beating us over the head with it. There's a lot of references to the old movies, to classic horror movies and the tropes of horror movies, which is all fine and good. But it comes to a point where I'm like, hey, why don't you be a good movie and stop being Mr. Wink Wink Nod Nod, like, hey, these horror rules, like, it was just, it got annoying, to be honest with you. It made me frustrated that there was definitely some good stuff here, and it just couldn't get out of its own way. It couldn't get its own head out of its own ass, and I was perplexed. I think perplexed is the right word about this movie. Like, it's neither good nor terrible. It rides that line in the middle. It squanders so much potential. I think any fan of this series will probably dig it. They come to these movies for being self-referential and, very self-aware of horror and the tropes and what's happened before. So I wouldn't knock somebody for saying like that they love this, because I could see where a horror fan or a fan of this franchise would really, really dig it. But as somebody who's more of a, I will dip my toe into horror. There's some stuff I like, stuff they reference in the movie. They go on about the more cerebral horror movies, and there's a lot of references to that. So I liked some of the elements to the self-referential stuff, but at the same time, boy, oh boy, it was like, give me the good story, but they really got in their way quite a bit here, and that's probably the biggest fault to this film. They built a good mystery, and they built some interesting stuff around here, and it kind of plays into those tropes of the horror sequels, which is like, so-and-so has this connection to so-and-so, and you're like, wait, how does that make any sense? But you just kind of go with it, and you forget about it. Man, it bums me out that this didn't knock it out of the park, because all those elements were there. And after seeing the original film, I think it got me even more excited for this one, because I was like, okay, if you build on this original film, there's so much here that you could play with in a sequel / reboot kind of thing. Really elevate this premise, because I think it's a great premise. I think, in terms of performances, the original cast is the big standout to me, and they come in it, and I thought really added some stuff to this. The new cast, though, not a whole lot of memorable stuff there. Your typical archetype, characters that you've seen before in horror movies. None of these, the younger cast really did anything for me. They were all bland and boring and not as interesting or as defined and shaped as the original characters were, which is a strength to the original Scream. And maybe one of these days I'll get to talk about that. In terms of recommending, if you like horror and you like the Scream franchise, by all means, this is probably up your alley and will probably do more for you than me. If you're not, skip this. It's, oh boy, it might just be a lot of just movie talking nonsense to you for half of this. So, I'm giving this a C+. It rides that line. Like a C+, man, like I said, if it would have just done some cleaning up of its story, a little bit of less of the sticking its head up its own ass, I probably could have gotten this up to a B, maybe even a low A range. There was that potential in it, and the fact that it's sitting at a C+, it's very middle of the road. It's neither terrible nor great. It straddles that line of at one point making me go, oh my goodness, this is awesome, to boy, oh boy, you guys are really just you don't know what you're doing with this, do you? You just want to be referential to be referential for some reason, and I don't know. That'll appeal to some people, but it didn't work for me here. So, yeah, that's the new Scream. What'd you guys think? Have you guys gotten to go out and see this? Let me know your thoughts. Crap, I did it again where I'm at the end of the video now, and I forgot to tell you guys, hey, if you enjoyed the review, if you could, leave a like and subscribe. That helps me out greatly. And then I would also love to hear your comments below about this. Are you a fan of the Scream franchise? If there's something about this that maybe I'm missing, I definitely plan on going back and checking out the other two Scream movies, 2 and 3 of the ones I haven't seen, and maybe at some point revisiting 4. Because I like the original enough, and I like this mythology and this world that was built, that I would give it some more shots and see how the other 2 movies did. But in terms of this new one, like I said, wasted potential here. But yeah, that's it for me, guys. And until next time, I'll be seeing you.